I'll give you the chance to go first. Any questions through the app or in the audience before I start interrogating, talking to our panelists? Okay, I'll go first. I'll start with Boris, and it's kind of similar question. How is the payments industry providing you with what you need? How does your requirement for omnichannel and customer journey look? And how are we as an industry, or who in our industry is doing a good job for you across all the complexity that you have across all your markets?
Yeah, well, I would pick up a point from Angus from the presentation. So where it stated that 61% of the companies will put payment in the heart of the strategy. When I'm looking down at my company, and if, for example, our CEO would sit here and you will ask him on telling something on strategy, I'm pretty sure he will tell you two hours on the company strategy, and he will never mention the word payment. So I think that brings me to the point of that he won't think that this is not important. But I think a topic is simplicity and efficient business cases, which we need from the industry. So I just want to give an example. So I mean, payment is a challenge for multinational retailers, no doubt about that. But multinational retailers also have a lot of other big challenges with digitalization and digital transformation. So in the end, when we are then coming to a point that I say, well, introducing Swish in Sweden, for example, costs me 200 days of implementation, and creating an online store in Japan also gives me 200 days of implementation. I think the answer from our CEO is clear what we are doing first. So that's why what we need from the payment industry are scalable solutions which are easy to implement. So standardized, I would say, interfaces that new payment methods, new trends which are coming up can be easily clicked on for us, not just on a consumer side, but also on a back-end side. So also when it comes to money reception and reconciliation, that's a key part. So we are in the end in a battle for resources, money-wise, and also for human resources, and that's why I can only be successful within the company if I can present convincing business cases with quite low effort, let me say, to implement here innovation in terms of payment.
Massimiliano, maybe you can say, when you look at your region, what are some interesting success stories or case studies around omnichannel that you and Mastercard have helped with?
Let me say that Europe actually is a region where I got the responsibilities that has got a lot of success on omnichannel. We are driving a lot of opportunities. The fact that the digital, I would say, revolution is happening is driving our responsibilities as Mastercard to give to our partners, and I'll explain in a moment what are those partners, we say the tools to become omnichannel. As a Mastercard, we do understand that to become an omnichannel, I would say, environment, where we do need to be global, we do need to be standard, we need to be safe, and these can be done through some standards. We develop APIs that are accessible to all our developers. We develop a technology of tokenization that enable any device to embed a card number, which is not just a card number, but is a token. And in this way, if the device and the token is compromised, you just need to, delete that token and continue using the same card in the other devices. Thanks to this technology, thanks to the partners, we are combining all together, and the partners are our strong partners, our banks, our issuing banks, our acquiring banks, the merchants that are customer of our partners. But now we are combining the ecosystem with fintechs, which are becoming strong partner of Mastercard, as well as all the PSPs, gateways, customers that are enabling this omnichannel experience. Bringing all these customers together, it gave us some excellent example through Europe in some specific verticals, for example, on which we are together with the customer enabling some omnichannel experience that is not just they're not just pilots, but can be, I would say, replicated anywhere. It's just a matter of finding the right opportunity. I'm talking about, for example, the house automation. I'm talking about car connection. I'm talking about the opportunities that you go within the retailers. For example, in Italy, we develop a self-scanning, I would say, omnichannel opportunity together with Auchan, together with the acquirer behind Auchan, together with the gateway of Auchan. It's called Auchan Speedy. And with that self-scanning app, the customer journey is just avoid the boring experience of the barrier checkout. That's what we need to get. We need to get rid of the barriers during the payment experience. So actually the customer enter, check in the app, then self-scanning all the items, and then once all the items are scanned, you just need to check out. You get a barcode in order to open the gate, and the customer is away. Obviously, this is something that need to be, I would say, developed. But for example, Auchan right now is developing that in 200 stores. Is about to develop in next year in more than 500 stores. The same is in the petrol vertical. We develop in Europe a lot of petrol omnichannel cases. The one which is very popular is ENI Pay Plus, which is an app on which, as soon as you are around a petrol station, they geolocalize you, because again, geolocalization is something that is becoming, I would say, very key in this digital experience. As soon as you are geolocalized, the app recognizes you with a biometric. Once the app recognizes you, the app starts connecting with the petrol kiosk. The petrol kiosk then requires which of the petrol pump you want to do it, and that's it. That's it. You just choose the amount, and then you close it. At the very end, we are not talking about the future. We are talking about something that it is in all ENI petrol station in Europe, in Italy. So we just need to bring together the right partners, enable the technology, standardize the technology, make sure that the SDK are developed within the app, make sure that the tokenization process is the tokenization process, and the seamless process, which is the digital process of contactless, is in place. We really believe on contactless, which is the first door to enter in the omnichannel as a digital environment.
Thanks. Angus, question to you. What are the main problems that you've been solving for these hundreds of customers, and who have you been supplanting as a provider in all this? Have you been going in and replacing hardware, software acquirers, processors, software vendors? Where is the biggest value add in terms of kind of headache that they have that they wanted solved by going to you for simplification and a one-stop shop?
Yeah, good question. So we tend to see that we displace multiple solutions because of where we fit in the ecosystem. So we're a provider of a single solution to retailers, allowing them to, as I touched on earlier, have a single view of the customer. This means, of course, you're usually taking out a point of sale solution, you're taking out an e-commerce solution. Even in some cases, people are reducing the requirement for some of the areas on financial solutions, because we're doing a lot of that automated reporting and reconciliation. So in terms of the omnichannel offering that we have now, that's where we tend to displace. We're also a provider of terminals, a couple of providers, so Ingenico and Pax terminals on the market all across Europe. And we're looking at putting obviously more of those in place in conjunction with our single platform.
Do you see a need for them to replace their actual point of sale hardware, especially in multi-lane retail, depending upon whether it's Primark or Tesco or someone else? I mean, do you see that also the legacy is a real block to getting the experience?
I don't think a retailer necessarily has to replace what they have. I mean, ultimately, there is some older technology out there, as long as it's not past certification, there's some older technology out there which still allows a consumer to make a payment with a credit card, right? So let's not forget that. But equally, retailers are aware that they want to become more relevant to a consumer that's used to using a smartphone every day. They want a device which is effectively more intuitive. It's what they have become used to. These are the people buying their goods. So if you can have an Android-based terminal which allows them to quickly make a payment, whether it's a tap, whether it's whether we're going into facial recognition, or whether at some point, much like I don't know, probably some mixture of people who are or might not be Amazon fans in this room. I happen to be a big fan of Amazon, and I'm intrigued by the way that they've managed to take, I guess, an online consumer, an engagement from an online consumer who loves their brand, to now start opening these Amazon Go stores. I know in London, my hometown, we will have one opening. I think it's in April. It's the first Amazon Go store in London. So you're now taking a recognition technology, which is not just the person; it's the goods that you're putting into the basket, and suddenly you've completely erased the payment experience. It's just an experience.
I'm interested to see how that scales up to bigger stores, because it's at the
quite,
moment it's limited to X number of goods
absolutely.
where their cameras can cope with people moving, replacing, and switching goods around. But it's certainly a very interesting,
but technology moves so
complete
fast.
customer experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think technology moves so fast. I don't think any of us can say in the room we know what's going to happen in the future. But it's a case of using the technology that we have at the moment to do what we can to get consumers to buy things most easily, and that's what I think Amazon are doing very well.
Paul, I think in summary you said we as an industry, too much complexity, not doing too well. So what's going to happen with the next round of mega M&A mergers, IPOs? I mean, I work for a Polish acquirer. We were bought by a fund and we did 4 acquisitions. I can see Nets buying up everything in Poland. I see the next round of mega mergers forming the next round of big companies. And is any one of them, after all these mergers, who's going to solve the multi-country retailers' problems, at least in Europe? I'm not even saying Japan or China, but which of us is going to solve this?
That's a good question. It's also a really difficult question to answer.
To say Elavon.
Well, so from an Elavon perspective, we've been very strong in supporting retailers to build out their presence across Europe. That's one of our primary strengths, is we've got a single technology platform. And one of the things that, if you go back sort of 5, 6 years, people hadn't necessarily really heard of our organization, but some of the biggest names out there from a technology standpoint all wanted to come towards Elavon to integrate. And the fundamental reason behind that was the technology that we have from an acquiring perspective is built on a European platform. So we don't have a UK platform, or we don't have a German platform. We have a true European platform. And with that platform, the people are able to do a card-present transaction and an e-commerce transaction through the same platform. Because when you speak to other organizations, they say, oh, well, you need one platform for this and one platform for that. No. In our world, we try and keep it simple, and therefore having that single technology stack has enabled us to support the growth. But insofar as what we're seeing with other organizations who are all sort of moving into this environment, it's very clear that they want to engage with partners who have that universal technology, who they can operate with across multiple markets. You know, they might then ultimately build into major local providers, but that's a secondary afterthought. The primary thought is, I need to take my product to market fast, and I need to engage with people in multiple countries, and that's where we fit.
So you think it's easier to expand organically than it is to do mass acquisitions and then get stuck with the platform?
Oh, totally.
Platform issues.
I mean, like, you know, I'm not going to necessarily pull out any names because that would be unfair. But you know, you look at, you just read the press and see how many outages organisations have had, and how many people go to their incumbent providers and say, right, we're looking at doing a technology change, and then people start to get really concerned. You see them start to twitch, and that's because nobody wants to touch the technology because it's on a legacy system, and they want proven capability before. From our side, from our journey of development, we had 8 or 9 different platforms, and then in 2007, we created a brand new shiny system, and we went through literally the pain of migrating 8 or 9 different sets of customers onto a single system. And that was painful. Having said that, yeah, we're through that, and we're enjoying the benefits out the other end. And therefore, that enables us to be agile. And you know, if you look at Elavon as an organization, you'll find that we've actually been first to market with a lot of the primary initiatives that have happened over the last 5 or 6 years. And the sad thing is we don't actually advertise that. We try and keep it to ourselves for some reason, but there's some personal development on Elavon's front.
I'll throw a question out to whoever of you wants to take it first. You know, where are we doing a good job? In which segments are we doing and is it the incumbents who are doing the better job, the companies who have been around the industry for a long time, or are the Squares, the Rebels, and everyone else for certain segments, or yourself, Alexandre, just doing a much better job coming in from clean, without legacy, in certain segments with newer hardware, with better solutions?
I guess from what I see, I think the new disruptors who are coming to the market are actually challenging the existing providers, and that's just great because they are literally coming forward. So if you look at the likes of Square, Digifoods, as they've described, you know, they are coming in with a brand new, yet again, single platform of technology, and they are scaling. And that is really important. I can't you know, if you ever speak to me, I'm on for standardization, simplification, try and keep it in one single box, and therefore you can build from that. And you know, it's those organizations that are going to be here in the next 5 and 10 years.
I think that what we are doing very well in Europe is servicing, at least thinking that the need now is micro merchants and SMEs. We are doing very good. We did a very good job in servicing the large merchants. Now, however, the micro merchant, the SME merchants, all those, I would say, transactions that are coming from an alternative method of payments are served by payment facilitators. So in Europe, we are doing well to give them the freedom to go around. They are challenging the system, which is great. There are a lot of payment facilitators in Europe, and some of them are also coming from US that are attacking the microsystem, the system, the payment in Europe, and they are enhancing the opportunities. And those are enhancing also to the next level the omnichannel, because they are not just bringing the face-to-face acceptance, but they are, I would say, packaging the acceptance together with the issuance, together with new, I would say, way to accept the cards online, and also the online face-to-face. Those opportunities are already in many markets in Europe, and watch the space, because in the next 2 years, thanks to the payment facilitators and partnership with these payment facilitators, with acquirers, Europe will change very quickly.
Alexandre, you're a newcomer. you're in one industry, I mean, where do you see yourself and others also being able to add value in more than just food in stadiums? You said restaurants and others. I mean, can you attack every small merchant segment because of your experience in software development, customer experience, and making that frictionless and great for the merchant and the consumer?
I think restaurants is the next way to the next place where we are going to do something, to try to improve the customer experience, because we have seen a lot of things happening in this industry. I mean, in this segment, you were mentioning Square. I think Square is quite a good example, step by step, of what companies has to do in this sector, because they have started with just the point of sale unit, and now they are focusing on the software so much that they can add, functionalities to this system. They can also provide, since January, this mid-January, credit card for users, for consumers. So because I think rewards will be, consumers want more and more and still more. I think rewards is a key also. So I had this experience we as a consumer with Square, actually, in a coffee shop, and I was buying a coffee, and because it was paperless, they asked for my email. I get there, I was back at work, and I received an email asking me how was the experience that I just lived just buying a coffee, And because the coffee wasn't so hot, I just said, okay, the experience wasn't so great, I just said that, and instantly, they asked me to go to the coffee shop and get another one for free whenever I want, and because the demand is now, because I wanted it now, the answer had to be now, and I think this is incredibly great, because now I could recommend this coffee shop, instead of saying that the coffee is not so hot and so great. So I think mobile eats its groove, definitely, because as we said, we can, as consumers, also give up our mobile banking app for a digital wallet. But on the other side, I think, because I want all the information in the same place, but I think, the consumer experience behind, after the purchase, is really important. And I think if people, if companies succeeded in providing a good way to get the feedback and fidelize, just like to get the consumer coming again and again, I think this is the key for any types of industries or properties of news.
I think that's I really like that example of customer experience. And obviously, we've been doing a lot on the customer experience and finding out from consumers and retailers about customer experience. And I didn't know that Square were doing that.
Yeah.
But I think, sort of slightly conversely, one of the biggest challenges, there are lots of really great technologies out there, lots of great consumer-facing technologies which allow payments to be made more easily, the things that we haven't even thought about yet, which are being developed, some things coming to market. But I think the real challenge is, it's a bit of a mental challenge for retailers to actually be prepared to spend the money on a new technology which really, they might question whether it's going to be successful or not. And on the other side, even if they do want to invest in this technology, they have huge legacy systems which, again, even more costly and even more difficult to integrate this new technology with. So I think whilst there are some great new functions, features with various technologies out there, I think that's the real struggle. It's getting the retailers to believe in what they're doing, understand the consumer, and almost ask the consumer what they want, what they would like, before implementing things. It
seems you work with the bigger retailers. Is your experience working with the bigger ones also something you can apply going down to even supporting very small retailers, but who also want a simplified omnichannel experience for their customers, but can't really afford to deal with all the hassle of integrating everything themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. We our focus is on larger, I guess we would call them omnichannel retailers, or retailers who are looking to have an omnichannel solution. So some of the brands up there, like Sports Direct, we have in 24 countries with an in-store solution. So that's all hosted in the cloud, and we're able to configure all of those terminals. And then we have much smaller customers. We have an SMB division to our business, which focuses on smaller customers. And you'll tend to find that they would have more of a standalone solution in terms of the terminals, but then they would be looking to use third-party marketing type solutions to understand their customer and to get marketing out to them. So things will be done slightly differently, and obviously a smaller retailer is less likely to be able to afford these larger all-encompassing solutions than a big multinational retailer, but I think there are ways of getting around it.
You mentioned new technologies, and I thought, we can end this with a block on what is new that's coming. What are people coming to you, Boris, with and saying, you need to have this because this is going to improve you and your customers' lives? What are they? Have you seen something that is being pushed by vendors saying, try this new technology out?
There's a provider we're talking to with who does biometric finger ID, biometric vein ID. Very interesting, and I would slightly counter the validity of a lot of these payment methods. There's a lady on stage yesterday, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, but she said, well, it's great, all of these payment technologies that mean you don't have to carry anything with you, but I'm always going to have my phone with me. So what's wrong with Apple Pay? What's wrong with Android Pay? What's wrong with paying via QR code? So I think there is an element for me of, are we trying to go a little bit too far? Are we trying to run before we can walk?
So what are you seeing, Boris?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, luckily, we are not forced to have always the newest high fashion technology, also because of the type of our business and also of our customer structure. So still we are seeing that when we are talking about generations, that today we are still operating with a quite traditional customer, which is not that demanding like a generation set already. And for example, also we are not, unfortunately, I would say, we are not dealing with the problems that that customers are queuing on our cash desks in the stores. Yeah, it would be better if so, but it's not the case. So that's why we are not in a position that we are having high pressure to constantly here have the newest technology. Nonetheless, I think the customer expects for us quite basically that the payment methods which they want to use. This is especially then from a multinational perspective is challenging because of domestic trends which are coming up, and also trying to have harmonized systems, but also implementing all these specific things. That's the most challenging part. So when it comes to Alipay, to WeChat, I mean maybe the industry already went through that, but definitely next things are coming up.
What do you think, Massimiliano? Do we see stuff like biometric, whether it's voice or face, or is PIN on glass and PIN on mobile just going to cut one whole swathe of cost out of the industry and move us all to standardized tablets and lower cost technology to go into those micro segments where there's still cash and they don't want a terminal or they don't want to incur the cost? I mean, what's your opinion over the next let's say, few years?
I'm so glad about this question because, I mean, one of the big issues that we are having, especially in Europe, on card acceptance is our cost. So for those to serve those new entrants, to new card acceptance entrants, I would say players, and the chunky stuff that we have right now are not, I would say, always the right answer. So the fact that now we do have tools that, thanks to the digital revolution, can become acceptance device, because I mean, what we are saying here, that thanks to the omnichannel, any device can become an acceptance device. That is very powerful, and that is going to challenge the fact that in order to accept the card, you must have a big POS, you must have a landline, you must have a shop. So actually, and sometimes we do have challenge to replace those. Look what's happening in the petrol around Europe. In order to replace a kiosk, they have to spend 10,000 euro, 8,000 euro to replace the kiosk. I mean, you can imagine what will happen in 2-3 years. I mean, digitalization will cut all these costs and will do the double jump, and that's what is happening in some European countries. They are not ordering anymore the standard technology in order to acceptance, in order to do directly through app acceptance, through digital acceptance. Look what is going to happen on vending. I mean, do you know, I mean, a vending machine, the life of a vending machine is like something like 8-10 years. I mean, we can't wait 8-10 years to let them accept cards. So those machines, they will accept cards through the new technology, through the app, through the omnichannel. So actually, and this is already happening, there are a lot of those opportunities on there. So actually, the new to cards merchants will be completely different than today new to card merchants. I see that the standard walk-in and branches for a micro merchant to ask a contract, to wait 4-6 weeks to have a merchant contract, and then to wait another 1-2 weeks to receive from an engineer a POS, it will disappear. Now there are players like that, payment facilitator, that will come in 24 hours or out the shelf with a terminal, and you are live in few hours, thanks to a dongle, thanks to a smart POS, a pin on glass, and this technology is going to challenge the whole environment. And I mean, I hope I can sit here in 5 years to tell you that the world, the acceptance world completely changed, but I bet it will.
Before we go to Paul, just I've got a question. Now, hands up, if I'm a flower seller and I sell you flowers, how many of you are going to easily put your PIN into my Samsung phone? And there's always a belief you have to trust your merchant, and I'm a great believer, but I think the amount of money that needed to be spent in Poland by the schemes, so on the one hand, interchange was high, which is bad. On the other hand, without high interchange, there wouldn't have been the tens of millions of dollars spent to, one, roll out 100% infrastructure on issuance and acquiring, and then spend millions on convincing consumers that tapping is fine, in spite of the fact of newspapers and others saying, I can scan your cards in your wallets in the train. And that's taken 8-9 years and a lot of money. And I'm a believer in this technology, but I just worry about this consumer aspect and the amount of education and money willingness to spend to convince them that it's fine. Because the ultimate aim is we all have a phone and we all authenticate everything in our own phone. We don't have a card, we don't touch anyone else's device, that's great. And in some countries we'll get there quicker. So in 5 years' time, I think, I don't know, maybe we'll be quicker with the mobile bit than we will be with the pin on glass bit. Paul, where do you see technologies as a kind of closing off the discussion?
So what we've seen, we're working with an organisation that has basically been an EPOS system provider, and now they're putting they're jumping into the cloud, and therefore putting their technology, or shall we say their software, onto our new hardware, which is smart hardware, which is like a tablet device. And I think we're going to see a lot more of people figuring out that it's really the software that underlies their organization rather than the hardware elements. You know, you've got the various terminal manufacturers out there, but I think that's going to be that's a dying breed. It's more going to be done through your own personal mobile phones.
So short their stock.
Huh?
Short their stock.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the way I would see it. I would see that people would be focusing more on their software capabilities and therefore building that onto the various devices that are out there.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think in summary, as long as we keep focusing what it is that our customers and their customers want, then I think we'll be fine. I don't think we can give ourselves an A in the industry, but maybe a C moving upwards might be a good grade. So thank you very much. I have a few quick announcements before you escape. At 3:30, there's a merchant-only group in the Tegel room with 3 network tables. I've been asked to remind you to have a look at the innovation wall as you go right and you go towards the other rooms. And there's some very interesting innovations there. And we're back at 1:30 in the combined room. There's an innovation jury panel. I think there are 7 or 8 companies presenting, and that should be pretty interesting as well. So thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks.